Like a lot of people, one of my biggest dreams is to just be able to play Stardew Valley all the time and to call it productive. So I got the idea to paint my way to the Master Angler achievement. So I jumped in a new game, waited till the second day, got my fishing rod from Willie, and got that first catch, which was a sunfish. Now, don't ask me how I caught a river fish in the ocean. Actually, it's because if you catch something that's not one of the pre-decided first catch fishes, it just becomes a sunfish no matter where you are. So I caught something weird, but it ended up being a sunfish for me. And there are so many types of sunfish. Actually, the only fish I've ever caught in a bluegill was a type of sunfish, but I decided to go with the red breast sunfish. It just had the colors that looked like the colors of the in-game sprite, and but it also had all of these other fun colors in it that made me really want to paint it, and it ended up really pretty. I love that teal peeking through with that really bright red stomach. And I thought it was just a really good fish to start off with. And that is our first fish painted. And then we move on to the sardine, one of the trio of tiny silver guys. I ended up going with the Pacific sardine just because I needed a specific species of sardine, and that one kept coming up. So that's the one I went with. But it had this really pretty dark back compared to its light stomach. And then we get the first of our everyone's favorite, the seaweed. And for this one, I just found a pile of seaweed that I liked. I found the species afterwards, actually. It's not as green and grass like as the in game one, but I liked it better and I had more fun painting it. So this is the one we went with for seaweed. And we catch it many times. But next, we've got our anchovy, the second in the trio of tiny silver guys. And this one I painted in bed kind of late at night, which is why the light kind of changes. And it ended up a little rougher than some of my other paintings, but I think it's still really pretty. It's got some good colors. I also did the smallmouth bass in bed that night, and don't come for me. I meant to fit it all on the first page, and I just don't plant my sizing really well. So it swims on to the second page. And you'll see as this goes on, it's not the only one to do that. So it works in the end. But the smallmouth bass is basically, from what my research, very similar to the largemouth bass. Its mouth just does not extend past its eyes. So I made sure to get that detail really, really right on this one and make the largemouth one have a longer mouth. And then we've got green algae, which boy, 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 I did not expect to be the hardest thing to do. But I did so much research, and basically, algae is like so many things. There's so many things that are considered algae. So eventually, I just found something that looked like the in game sprite. I don't actually have an exact species on it because I couldn't find a good reference for the green algae. But I think it ended up really pretty once I finally decided to do something. And luckily, even though we catch it several times, I only have to paint it once. But we will come back to the algae conversation with the white algae. But basically, even seaweed is considered algae. So technically, you catch so many algae in this game, and a lot of green algae is very it just combines with the water, and I didn't know how to paint that. So I had a really hard time finding a reference for this, but I did it. And this one I did a little bit more of a real-time painting instead of the hyperlapse like a lot of the fish end up being. But that is that for algae. And then we have day 3, and we leveled up in fishing overnight. Our first catch is the shad, and this one's just kind of a fish. Its sprite has a lot more character than the actual one does, but I liked its little face. It had a pouty lip like a lot of fish do. But I found one that looked kind of similar, but it ended up being a lot more colorful in my painting. But that's just something that happens with my art. It usually ends up more colorful than in real life or in the reference. I just like to use color. And then we move on to the chub, which, let me tell you, typing chub into Google image search had me scared. But luckily it came up as the fish, and I thought this one looked so much like the sprite. It ended up being the Utah chub, and it just looked so much like the sprite. Don't talk to me about scale, because yes, in real life the chub is smaller than the shad, but I just, like I said with the smallmouth bass, I don't know how to plan my sizing. I just start painting, and however big it ends up being is how big it ends up being. Uh, this one was not as colorful as some of the fish, but I still kind of popped those bright colors in the lights. Like I've got a little bit of light blue and some pink down there. And I think it worked really great. On to the next day, we level up again because I'm fishing all the time. We've got the bullhead, which is actually just a type of catfish. So there were a lot of things I learned while researching the fish for this video. And the bullhead is just a type of catfish. So you catch 2 catfish in this game, maybe more. This one ended up being a little bit more stylized because if you look at the eye right now, it's not finished, but it looks very cartoony. And I thought he looked so cute like that I just kind of attached onto that cartoony stylized guy. And it ended up being a little bit more stylized, even though I do go in and finish the eye a little bit more. But yeah, I don't mind it being a little bit more stylized. Next, we have our largemouth bass, which, like I said, with the smallmouth bass, very similar, just the mouth is obviously larger. I wanted to find a very green reference because the sprite is such a green fish, and I think I found a really great one. Big and green, all those colorful light rays on his back ended up being really fun to paint. I hate painting on the like crease of the page, but I love how it looks as a whole spread when it's finished. So I fought with this one quite a bit to try and get the detail to cover, like, move across the break in the page. But it ended up being cute in the end. He works really well with the page as a whole, and I did mess up his name, which I haven't been showing me filming the names, but you can see in the top corner I've been writing the common name and the Latin name, and I messed his up, but I fixed it. And next we have our carp, which just has the cutest little pouty mouth, like Pouty mouth, and I wanted to make sure to include that. And he's got the little whiskers that makes it look kind of like a catfish again. When you search carp, you get a lot of koi, which I didn't do the research into if they're the same thing, but you also get a lot of things that look like Magikarp and like giant goldfishes. And I wanted to choose one that was very yellow, a little bit slender, kind of like my goal for everything was to make it look like the sprite. And then we have our herring, the last of the little silver trio. And again, I just started with a very colorful base and added the darks on top of it to make it look very shiny. The highlights in this one, I could have popped a little bit more. He doesn't look so shiny when it's all said and done, but he still looks good. And then we have our halibut, which looks nothing like the sprite, but I could not find one that looked that shape. Halibut are those one-sided fish. They have both eyes on the same side. The Pacific halibut I ended up doing is actually a right side one because a lot of them actually are on the right side. But I tried to give it that like deep dark look like in the game. And he's got his creepy little eyeballs that I added at the end. And Just makes him look so silly. But I really wanted to make it clear that his eyes were on the same side. Then we have another level up overnight, and we move into the Bream, which is another one, in my opinion, that does not look like the sprite at all. I did my best, but they are a very tall fish. Like, it looks like if you took a regular fish and then just stretched the back and the stomach up, but everything else stays the same. But we move on to another day and another level up, and now we have our catfish, which, to be honest, I am so surprised I caught this early in the game because I always struggle with the catfish. And every other catfish I found until like the end of the month, I was struggling to catch. So I don't know how I got lucky and caught this one, but that luck ended when I went to paint it because it was the first one after all of these fish that I messed up on the sizing for. I wasn't feeling very well, and to be honest, I probably shouldn't have been painting because that's when you invite mistakes, but I just got the whole sizing for his body and his face wrong, so all of this work you're seeing right now, I actually go back and change right here. That's why it gets all like blended and fuzzy, because I squeezed him into a space that he did not fit, and so there wasn't enough room for his face, but I made it work in the end. And we move on to the eel next, which was so fun and so easy. The hardest part was finding an eel that was the right color, I guess. Like, it's a very yellow eel in game, so I wanted one that was long and skinny but still very yellow, and I ended up on the long, thin snake eel, and it was just so quick to paint, and I loved it. I really needed that after the catfish. And now we have our white algae, which again was a nightmare, and I just painted something. So we move on to the ghost fish, and the ghost fish required a lot of research because there are a few fish that like are called ghost fish, but none of them look right. So I moved on to looking into like cave dwelling blind fish, and I found the northern cave fish, which again I had to settle for. Like, it did not look exactly like the in-game sprite, but it was white and it was blind, and I think it worked in the end. And then we had our stonefish, which are incredibly venomous and a little bit ugly, but also a little bit cute because they're just down there like, I'm just a rock, don't step on me. But it was so fun to paint, especially as a landscape painter. Like, I paint rocks all the time. So I had a good time with that. And then we move on to the flounder. It shouldn't have taken me this long to catch the flounder, but it did. It also shouldn't have taken me this long to realize the video was out of focus, but it did. When I start to put in the details, it'll be in focus again. I'm sorry. But this is just kind of like base colors, and it looks the same in focus or out of focus. I was looking for a flounder that was yellow and blue because I was looking at the sprite and I went, okay, it's yellow and blue. And I scrolled down through the photos and went, hey, that one's yellow and blue. So I did the peacock flounder. And these spots really are what sold it looking good, because before that, it was just kind of like a blurry, jumbled mess. And it also helped that I went in and added a few more darker details when I did the spots. But this is our flounder. Looks kind of like the sprite. I don't think the sprite really captures the flatness and the one-sided of it. But next we move on to 1, 2, 3 level ups, because we spent the most of the month just catching fish, nothing new. And then I remembered that the goby exists. Unfortunately, it was too late to get the pot of gold and the leprechaun hat, but I went and caught myself a goby. I tried to get to level 10 fishing in time to get the legend. It didn't happen, but there will be a kind of like extra year 2 video. I also tried to catch the ice pip. I hooked him a couple of times. Did not have any success reeling him in. I just was not at that level yet. I didn't have the iridium mod, And on the second to last day, I also remembered that crab pots exist. So I put some bait in a crab pot on my farm, and I pulled in a crayfish on the last day of spring. So that is our little crayfish, crawfish guy. The first one of the crab pot to be painted because I forgot they existed, but also the last one of spring to be painted. This one I probably could have chosen a better reference for because the in-game one is so grayish blue. I just really liked this brown one, so I did a grayish blue underpainting, so hopefully that would kind of bleed through, I guess, a little, but I ended up still making him very brown, but he's very cute, and I could have done a completely blue crawfish. I liked this guy, so I did this guy. And that is our last fish of the spring. Here is a close-up look at all of them so you can see them a little bit better. Enjoy all those details that we sped through. Enjoy all those colors. I had a really fun time doing this video, not only because it gave me an excuse to play Stardew Valley, but fish are such a great exercise in shape and color and movement and texture, and I've been really into painting them lately. But that brings us to the end of spring. We will continue on painting the fish that we catch in summer, fall, winter, and then, like I said, we'll do kind of like a bonus year 2 Ginger Island, any of the fish that I missed video. Summer edition this time. We are starting off with the pike. It's actually the first fish I caught, which is a little surprising because it can be kind of difficult to catch sometimes. But I love a pike. They always look kind of grumpy, and I'm pretty sure they're in some cartoon. Maybe it's The Sword and the Stone, and I just always think of that. It's so well done. It looks like that's how a pike looks. They did such a good job. So I wanted to capture its little grumpiness. I did make it more green than the sprite. You'll notice in the summer video, I really kind of started to stray away from the sprites. I was having more fun researching the fish and just painting the fish I wanted to paint than matching the sprite so much. But you guys seem to love the first video, so hopefully you'll love what I do with summer just as much. For the last step of any fish is adding in those nice highlights and any other shadows I've lost. Now we move on to the periwinkle, which is a crab pot catch. And I'll be honest, it doesn't really look... I couldn't find anything that looked like what the in-game sprite does. And maybe this is why I stopped caring about the sprite so much in this video, but like this sprite looks like some sort of, I want to say bug thingy, but it's a snail, so it is a kind of bug thingy. But yeah, it's very much a snail, so I just painted the shell. And then we move on to the tuna. I chose the Atlantic bluefin tuna, I believe. It just had that nice pale light blue look that the sprite had, but also with how silvery it looks and those deep dark blue lines, it kind of looks like a robot fish, like it's made out of steel or something, and that's really fun to me. But actually, the tuna is not the only tuna in the game, so we'll see another one next season. And now we move on to the red mullet. And personally, if you ask me, I feel like the sprites for the red mullet and the red snapper got mixed up because the red mullet sprite looks so much more like a red snapper to me. And you'll see that in a few fish when I paint the red snapper. But the one I decided to paint ended up being very light and pink, and maybe I could have found a better reference, but this is kind of what they were all looking like. And next, I almost caught the octopus. It took a long time to catch the octopus, but it did not take that long to catch the pufferfish. Now, I chose to paint the pufferfish not inflated. That's just how you see them swimming around when they're comfortable, and I didn't want to paint a stressed out, blown up pufferfish. So this is what we got. Next, we've got another crab pot catch, the last of the river one, I believe, and it is the snail. Now, I could not find a real snail that had this bright green shell and big yellow body, at least not a freshwater one. And since you catch this one by putting your crab pot in a lake or river, I definitely wanted it to be a freshwater snail. So I just chose a ram's head snail that had a ram's horn snail that had the like spirally round shell. And I tried to bring in some green in the shell, but I was not going to get that bright yellow body because it had a deep midnight blue body. But I think it ended up looking good, even though it doesn't look like it does in the game. And like I said, a lot of things in summer are not going to look like they do in the game. After the snail, our next catch is going to be the tilapia. And again, like in spring, the seam of the page threw me off a little. I wish I had ended up making this fish a little bit taller just to get that typical tilapia shape, but I didn't. I found a very green tilapia, and I told myself I was going to paint it more brown so it would look like in the game, and I still made it very, very green. But you have to remember that a lot of these pictures of fish that I'm using are underwater, and especially with freshwater fish, the water can be very green looking, so the fish end up looking very green looking. And I am not good enough to make up my own lighting, so I just kind of paint how it looks. And so they come out very green. Luckily, I like that very swampy green color, so it doesn't bug me. And honestly, we're 5 minutes into the video. If you've made it this far, I doubt it bothers you either. Next, we have the rainbow trout. And rainbow trout are very special to me. In middle school, I had the same science teacher all 3 years, and every year we would raise rainbow trout from the little fries and then go out and release them into the rivers for a program called Trout Unlimited. And it was very fun. I loved doing all the water testing and making sure the fish were okay. And obviously, I loved the field trip to the river. So rainbow trout just have a special place in my heart, and I guess they're one of my favorite fish. I don't think I've ever really thought about my favorite fish, but I love how spotty and pink they can be. They're just so cute and a very popular fish for painting. I feel like I see a lot of people painting rainbow trout and it doesn't bug me one bit. Next we have the shrimp, and because it looks so pink in the sprite, but a lot of like live shrimp are very grayish brownish, I had to search a while to find a good reference, but I ended up finding some peppermint shrimp that instead of being white with very bright red stripes, they were more of a orangey pink color with red stripes. And now we come to the red snapper, and look at that sprite. Doesn't it look so much more like the fish I found for the red mullet? I wish these could have been back to back, but you can jump around as much as you want. This looks so much like the other sprite to me. And if you've played Animal Crossing, that in-game sprite looks like the red snapper. So I don't know, maybe they just got mixed up and no one has pointed it out until now. But I love the red snapper. It's so bright and red, and this page has so much red on it compared to spring. It's so bright and colorful and fun. I did kind of fight with this fish a little bit though. I kept adding in darks, and then I would try and bring some of the color back because I felt like I lost the color. And then I would be like, no, it's too colorful now, and darken it again. So it ended up being a little bit muddy, But personally, I feel like fish can get away with being a little bit muddy. Let me know what you think. Now we have another level up. And I also made my way over to that side beach and was able to try and get the crimson fish. Did not succeed. And then actually I painted the super cucumber, the crab, and the clam on live with some friends. So I don't actually have footage of that. I'm so sorry. I just have this like tail end of me finishing the clam. I thought I was going to be able to get the footage, but I couldn't, so I won't do that again. But there they are. And then we have the oyster, which oysters are so fun. They're always so bumpy and lumpy, and they have such fun colors. I love finding oyster shells on the beach. Like, I know they're so common and so plain, but I love them so much. So I wanted to make sure to paint a really bumpy, nice one. Then we catch the wood skip, which takes us to an interesting place. So the wood skip does not actually exist in real life. So I had to do some deep dive research to find a fish that would work for the wood skip. I ended up finding a site that had like all of the fish that live in the Amazon River. And so I was just scrolling down it because I feel like the Amazon River is very similar to the Secret Woods. Kind of. But so I scrolled, and I found the lyre tail pleco, which is kind of like catfish. I think it's a type of catfish, but it screamed wood skip to me. So that's what I did for the wood skip. We also finally caught the crimson fish, which is a very similar thing, does not exist in real life. I think I just typed into Google red ocean fish, and then I went to like rare red ocean fish, and the whalefish came up, and it is a type of deep sea fish, and it had that like kind of burgundy and that kind of orange at the fins, and I was like, this would be great for the crimson fish. So this is our crimson fish, guys. And I think that's kind of the fun of it. This whole project is seeing what I choose for the fish, because there are so many different species and varieties, and it's fun to see which ones I choose. Next, we move on to the Dorado, which is a real fish again. So that was easy. I just had to find a reference and then paint it. I actually caught my first Dorado during the trout derby. But if you just type in Dorado to Google, the mahi mahi comes up, which is a really fun fish, but it's a ocean fish and looks nothing like the Dorado. So I had to type in freshwater Dorado, and luckily the golden Dorado came up, and it was exactly what I was looking for. Looks so much like that little sprite down in the corner. And it honestly has such lovely tones that you find in real gold with those browns and those greens. And it is really fun to paint. It's also got this like cute little pouty, almost nose bump. I thought that was really fun. And all those dots of or lines of dots down its back were also really fun to paint. But overall, it was a pretty simple fish, nothing too special about it. It actually exists in real life, which is a treat after the last two. But it was also fun choosing my own fish. But next, we move on to the sturgeon, which is another one of my favorite fish. Like, they always look so prehistoric and dinosaur like. Like, their skin looks like rocks and scales, and they're just so fun looking. There's actually a new touch tank at the Georgia Aquarium where you can pet the sturgeon, and they're so cute and so fun. But I just wanted to paint one that looked like my favorite type of sturgeon, so it's very brown instead of very blue. But I like the brown ones, so this is what we did. And then next we had the octopus, which I was fishing for days. Like, I realized it was the last week of summer, and I was like, this is only available in summer. I am not waiting a whole other year. So I went there every morning and fished and fished and fished, and I did not think I was going to get it. But luckily I did. So we got all of the summer fish this season. I also think the sprite looks a little bit cartoony, but I was aiming for a brown octopus because the ones I see most often, I feel like, are the Pacific red octopi. Um, so I just typed in brown octopus and I got the common octopus, which still has a lot of color in him, and that's what I love about octopi, but he is brown for the most part, so he works for our summer octopus. I love all the long intertwining arms. That's one of the great things about octopi. And I tried really hard to get that bumpy, camouflagey, full of color and texture surface that the octopus has, while also getting that kind of like smooth, goopy underside of the tentacles. And the suction cups were really fun. I probably could have done better at the suction cups, but I like the way it turned out. His eye gets kind of hidden, but that's okay. I feel like there were so many fun fish to look up for the summer, and definitely some really fun ones to paint. We got more into the crab pot fish this season. I think I've almost got just about all of them painted. And each season as we go on has less and less fish because I've already caught so many of those ones that can be caught at any point and any time. So the fall will take us into a lot more made up fish. I've actually at this point got all of fall played through and about half of fall painted already. So if you like the real fish that I've already painted, there will be more of those. But if you're enjoying seeing the fish that I choose to reference for the made up fish, then there will be a lot of that in fall. I've already painted the midnight carp, and he is a purple little cutie, and so I hope you look forward to seeing that. I have had so much fun with this project. It is scratching the little crazy nature girl itch in my brain, and I just get to paint fish all the time, and you guys are loving it. And I love that because I would be painting these fish either way, but to have so many people respond so well to these fish makes me so happy, and it kind of validates the doing it. When all of the fish are caught and all of the videos are done, I do plan to make some products with these fish. I want to make kind of like a zine field guide that has every single fish. And then I also want to do some stickers. So if you've seen some favorites in these past two videos that you would love to see on sticker sheets or even as individual stickers, please drop it in the comments below so I know which ones people want. But that brings us to the end of our season and nearing the end of our video. We just have to do a little overview, take a more detailed look at all of the fun fish we painted, and see how bright and colorful summer's page was, because there was so much color in summer. And I can't tell you why I painted all of these fish smaller than I painted in spring. It's just, that's how it happened. But that is the end of our month. I know I already said it, but if you liked this video, which I really hope you did, please leave a like or a comment. Feel free to ask any questions. We were able to reach level 10 fishing by summer, and we are filling up that collections page pretty nicely. Welcome to the third video, painting every fish in Stardew Valley as I catch them. Now we are in fall. If you've missed spring and summer, they're over on my channel. There's also a playlist of all of the ones so far, so make sure to check that out if you want to. This season, we are starting off with the tiger trout, which is actually a fun little hybrid between a brook trout and a brown trout. And it's got really fun coloring and all of these little squigglies on the side that kind of give it that tiger name, I think. But I really wanted to play into that red belly. Now we move on to the salmon, which bugs me a little, and we're going to get into it. So the Stardew Sprite is a very silver-looking fish, and salmon do appear silver when they're in the ocean. But in the fall, when they come back to the river, which is when you can catch it in Stardew in the fall in a river, that's when they get that green, red, pink look with the hooked lips. So I kind of did an in between with my painting. I gave it that starting to get pink belly and a little bit of green on the back. And I also gave it lips that were starting to hook and curl over. And it's really neat how and why they change appearance, but we have to move into the midnight carp, which, if you did not know, is not a real fish. About almost half of the fish in fall that I painted were not actually real fish. Most of them actually were carps. So all I did was look at different types of carp and found a species that looked like a good base for our made up fish. And then I adjusted the color palette. So for the midnight carp, I made a mirror carp look very purple. And I think it looks so cute the way it turned out. Not all of our made up fish this season were as successful as the midnight carp was. But now we move into a crab pot catch, and back to a real life animal. We have a mussel. And I don't know if you'll be able to tell in this video, especially in the speed paint section, but this may be one of the prettiest things I have ever painted. There's just so much subtle color difference in all of these blues, and I love the way the blues and the teals mix or contrast against that burnt sienna orangey brown color. It's just so pretty. Now we move on to the sea cucumber, which it's a real animal. It's just kind of a blob. There wasn't much to it, but it's real. Here it is. Now we've got our walleye, which, if I'm remembering my research correctly, is another type of pike. So yet again, a species of fish that we catch more than once in Stardew Valley. I love how green and spotty this little guy turned out. But if you've seen my other two videos, you know that while I like how it looks in the finished spread, I hate painting on the crack of the page. So there was a little bit of fighting with this guy, which seems fitting because you have to fight him a little bit to catch him in Stardew Valley. And if you remember the red snapper from summer, then this one was also kind of one of those ones that I had to go back and forth of adding highlights and shadows and colors and making it too muddy and then trying to fix it and then adding spots back in that I had smudged away by adding in more washes. But I do like how it turned out in the end. He's very cute and very green and spotty. Also, I'm sorry, y'all, if this voiceover is a little bit of a mess. It has been such a long day, and I should have done this earlier, but the video goes up tomorrow, so here we are doing it now at 11:30 at night. But that doesn't matter because we are moving on to our albacore, which is another type of tuna. So, right after one another species that we catch more than once in this game. And don't get me wrong, I don't really mind that we catch multiple of the same group of fish. Like, I have no problem with us educating and enlightening people on more types of fish because everyone should know more types of fish. I know I'm definitely trying to know more types of fish. But we move on to our next made up fish and the legendary for fall, which is our angler. Now, I did do some research about whether there were freshwater anglerfish, because you do catch this guy in the river by the waterfall. And there actually are freshwater anglerfish, but they don't have the same little, like, lantern that we know of anglerfish. They do have something that sticks off the bit of their head. So I tried to take a frogfish, which is the freshwater anglerfish, and mainly give it the coloring of our in-game sprite and give it a little bit more of a glowy lantern. But we move on to another crab pot catch, the cockle, and you can actually find this one on the beach, but it does not go towards your master angler achievement. So I had to get this out of the crab pot. And I don't know if y'all heard that loud train that just came through, but hopefully you didn't. I just don't have the energy to re-record this more than one time. So hopefully it wasn't too bad. And we're gonna move on to another made-up fish. I think the majority of our not made-up fish are crab pot things. And actually, as you'll see here, I had chosen a species of fish to base the ice pip off of. And then I learned about another fish, and then I came back and decided to change fish. So there's a little bit of a ghostly shadow underneath this one. But I ended up going with the Arctic grayling as my base, and then just making sure to, well, maybe not making sure to, but trying to make it nice and blue like the ice pip in the game. It did still come out very gray. Sometimes I have a hard time convincing my brain to stray from the reference, but it's got some of that blue in there. You can see it. And I hope it's fitting as the ice pip for y'all. I just thought it had a similar shape with the big back fin and the kind of rounded heart-shaped fin. The one I had chosen before was rare, like the ice pip. It didn't have the shape and it didn't feel right to me. So I'm really glad I learned about the Arctic grayling when I did, because it was just perfect for the ice pip, in my opinion. Now we move on to the lava eel, which I kept getting confused with a fire eel, and I was like, this is a real thing. It's not. The fire eel is real. So that's what I based the lava eel off of. And like the ice pip, I tried to play into more of those warm red tones. I just love how kind of deep velvety blue a fire eel is. I could not stray too far. So it ended up kind of a warm purple brownish color. But I do like how it kept some of those fiery markings along the side. And you'll see later in the close-ups, I think I did an okay job at keeping it that kind of velvety, soft touch look with it. But no joke, this whole time I've been playing through this game, I'm like, well, the lava eel is a real fish, so I don't have to worry about that. And but it's not. It's the fire eel. Um, Here's where things get awkward. When we get to the mutant carp, I was so nervous and caught up about making it look mutant that I forgot to hit record and didn't realize until I went to stop the video. So that was a nice quick look at what I did, but we have to move on to the sandfish, which is a real fish, surprisingly. It's the flathead sandfish, and I believe they live in Australia, but it it's a real fish, which was a relief after all of our made up fishes. But we quickly go back to another made up fish and another made up carp. And let me just tell you, this run was fish blessed because I caught not one scorpion carp on my first try, but another one immediately after that. And that never happens. And then I found a reference image that I thought fit the shape really, really well for the scorpion carp. And all I had to do was add some red onto the fins so it looked like our in-game sprite. So this one was by far the easiest made up fish to paint. As you can see, we are really filling out this fish page, and we are moving along. It is finally time for the long-awaited winter video of our painting every fish in Stardew Valley as I catch them. I'm so sorry that it's a week late. Life just happens, you know. Obviously, if you're watching this from the future, you don't care. They're all here, all together. But we're gonna start with the perch. Probably the easiest fish to catch in the winter, and so it was my first fish I caught this winter. It was also pretty straightforward to paint and find a reference for. Just a perch. Pretty simple fish, a real fish, which we're entering the territory of not a lot of real fish anymore. But the perch was nice and easy and a really great start. Unfortunately, I left for a week after I painted the perch, but we're just gonna ignore that. I tried to catch the glacier fish next and was quickly humbled, so I went and caught a squid instead. And actually, the week I was away really helped because I was struggling to find a reference I liked for the squid. And while we were away, so I heard someone talking about the Humboldt squid, which is probably larger than what I was thinking for the squid, but it looked how I wanted. And that's really the most important part. The next day, I went back and actually caught the glacier fish this time. And it's probably one of my more successful fake fish. I obviously the ones that I found a close enough real life fish that I was able to just paint that were the best of them, but of the like mashup, can't change the color ones, this one probably ended up the best. I just mashed a few like Arctic fish together and made the color palette match the in-game fish, and I think it turned out pretty good. Definitely not like the mutant carp from last video that ended up looking a little bit silly and a little bit out of place. This one looks more like a real fish, just with a little bit of a funky color palette. I definitely hit a little bit of a roadblock in this video trying to find fish that worked for all of the fake fish, and I'm sure I'll struggle with it in the next video too. But there are still a few real-world fish in the game, including the lingcod. And I'm sorry the lighting gets weird here. I I was determined to get this video done in time for this week, but we still had a lot going on, so that meant painting in weird places sometimes. So the lighting's a little weird, but if you're here this far into the series, I think you're just along for the ride, and I appreciate that about you. Fun fact about lingcods, actually, you can see me adding some teal here. Some lingcod meat is naturally teal, like almost that bright teal, and I think that's really cool because that's not a color I feel like you see in nature very often. So the lingcod was fun to paint, mainly because that's one of my favorite colors. But we move on to the blobfish, which was not a win for me. I wanted to paint like a real blobfish, not that jumbled, squishy mess that you see in the pictures. And there's not a lot of good photo selection of a real blobfish underwater. And I did a lot of research, but I think I actually ended up choosing the wrong species of blobfish. I was also fighting against the crack of the page again, which I didn't actually have to do because we're nearing the end and I could have just moved on to the second page. But here we are with this blobfish. But after the mess of the blobfish came one of my maybe best color palette change fish. I don't think a squid is a fish. But here we have the midnight squid, which the reference I was using was a very red-orange squid. And I think I handled the color palette change very, very well, and it looked really good. Now we have the spookfish, which is a name for the barrel eye fish. The in-game sprite has always confused me, and I don't know what it's trying to be. So I just painted a barrel eye fish. I could have made it more blue to match the in-game sprite, but honestly, I was just having fun painting the real thing. So this is what we've got for the spookfish. I think it's cute. Is it accurate? I don't know, but here it is. And then we have our last crab pot catch, the lobster. And at this point, I was having a huge pain flare up. So I kind of just wanted everything to be done. But the lobster kind of came out really, really well. Like, you'll see when we get to it, but it looks really good. As long as you don't look at the upper left corner where that claw and its face is, because I definitely misproportioned things there. But the rest of the lobster looks really good. I love all of the warm and cool color changes and how they blend into each other. It just, it's probably one of my better paintings for this series. The fact that it was looking this good is definitely what kept me going. Because, like I was saying, I was in pain, not having a good time. And if this lobster was looking not so great, I would have just called it quits and been really upset with myself the next day when the video went up. But it didn't, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I think it is a great one to end the video on and end the season. That is the end of our winter, and the end of our first year in this Stardew Valley playthrough. Here are all the fish. I'm sorry the lighting's not so great. Like I said, I was over it and forgot to do this shot until the end of the day. But I will be posting a better picture on my Instagram, so if you really want to see them in good lighting, go check that out. Should be up when this video is up. But as you can see, our page is getting very full. We just have those last few post-community center fish. Alright y'all, we made it this far. This is the year 2 video of painting every fish in Stardew Valley as I catch them. Beginning of year 2, I wake up in spring and it's raining, so I go to catch the legend because I just was not able to reach level 10 fishing year 1 spring. But after literally a lot of ups and downs, a lot of ups and downs. This guy is a jumpy boy. But eventually, I am able to catch the legend. And so it is the painting we are going to start this video off on. When I started this project and I realized that some of the fish did not exist in real life, and I started looking into what real life fish I could use as a reference, this was actually one of the first fish I knew what I was going to use. I think it was when I was doing the catfish in the first video that I found the gulper catfish, which had a big old belly that just screamed legend to me. So I knew exactly what I was doing once I caught this fish. And to be honest, I think it might be one of my favorite fish I painted in the series. Like there's quite a few that I love. There's just something about like the texture on the back and the way that green blends into the brown that just really makes me happy and reminds me of why I like gouache in the first place anyway. So I think he's a very strong start to this video, which is nice because not all of the fish in this video went as well, but this one definitely did. After catching the legend, I just had to speed run through spring and into summer so that I could finish the community center and start catching the post-comsen fish, starting with the slime jack. Honestly, I was checking the traveling cart every day in winter and spring trying to get a red cabbage or a red cabbage seed because I just wasn't checking enough during year 1. And on winter 28, I no, it was spring. On spring 28, I got a red cabbage seed from the traveling cart. So exactly one day before I could have bought it from Pierre's shop. But that's fine. I had the greenhouse by then, so I just popped it in the greenhouse with some speed grow, grew it as fast as I could, and calm sun was done and we can move on. I've played through Stardew Valley several times, so this bit, not a big deal for me. I went up to the train tracks, got the like talked to the wizard, went down to the sewers, got the dark talisman, caught the slime jack while I was there, and then made my way back up to the train tracks to go into the like goblin swamp area, whatever that's called, the witch's swamp, and catch the void salmon, which normally you would do for the movie center bundle. No, movie theater bundle, but I wasn't too worried about that for this playthrough. So I just caught the fish, got the wizard his ink, and then left. And finally, Willie was like, hey, here's my boat. And because this was all I was waiting for, I had all of the materials ready to go and immediately gave them and went to bed, and the boat was rebuilt. So I was able to sail my way across the ocean. That's probably an ocean. Down to Ginger Island. This was all I was waiting for all of spring and summer. Like, there were so many fish I had to catch here, and I just needed to finish the community center. But we made it. There's that dinosaur in the corner. I always love seeing him. And I stepped off the boat and immediately caught a lionfish. I wish I could say it was that easy painting it. I struggled with this one. I don't know why I thought it would be so easy. Maybe because it's small, but I painted it really big, and I just kind of fought with it the whole time. I don't know, like maybe I wasn't getting the colors right, or I was making it too dark or too light or not light enough, and my white wasn't really working, so I was losing those highlights. You've heard this story before. I've talked about fighting with fish until they get muddy. I probably in every episode so far. So while I wish I had managed to do a little bit better with this lionfish, that just leaves opportunity in the future for me to paint a really good lionfish. It's not bad. It ended up okay at the end. And I go in a little after I stopped filming and punched up some of those darks and lights. So you'll see it in the like final overview, but you can tell by how long this clip is of me painting the lionfish that I was struggling with it and just going back and forth and losing detail and trying to add it back and feeling like it didn't fit in, so trying to soften it and then feeling like I didn't have that detail again. So we're done with that. No, I went off and caught the blue discus. This one I felt pressure for. It was the only fish that someone had asked for by name. I think when I posted the first video of me painting the spring fish, someone was like, but where's the blue discus? And I was like, it's coming. I'm doing it by season. And at that point, I knew I was not finishing the community center in year one. So I felt pressure to get this one right. And I hope I did. It was just a cute little fun fish. So I went off and caught the stingray. I had to grind for enough golden walnuts to unlock the resort area, which unlocks the like side beach and the pirate cove. But as soon as I did, I ran right in there and caught myself a stingray. And these guys are so cute, so fun. I love the way they swim, but they are easy to paint, which I needed. But after I caught it, I noticed something really weird pop up. Down in that little left-hand corner, Master Angler achievement. And I thought I had to catch 5 more fish before I got that, but I guess I don't. So here's our overview of our fish for year 2. I was kind of jumping around everywhere on the page. But that is our entire fish collection page filled out. I thought I had to catch 5 more, but I guess I don't to get Master Angler. And since that's the title I'm putting on these videos, I guess we're done. Thank you so much.